Okay. Thank you, Mia. So I am just going to introduce Jordan here. Jordan McLaughlin is from Evict Private Equity Columbus, who has started organizing and working on this issue of private equity ownership of homes and that distorting our housing market. Um, I've known Jordan several years from some political things, and probably Jordan's most recent claim to fame is that he sued the Trump administration over tariffs as well. And so he is well well equipped and very experienced to create good trouble. And so with that, I will let you take over, Jordan, and say what else you want to say.
All right.
Oh, Jordan got muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. So, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. And like I said, I've known John a long time, and thank you to him and to Mia for organizing this. So yeah, I recently started Evict Private Equity Columbus. I have like a PowerPoint that I'll bring up here in a minute, but the basic idea of this, before we kind of go into details, is trying to convince Columbus City Council to create an ordinance that limits the amount of single family homes private equity can own in the city of Columbus, because they're buying stuff up like crazy and making everything more expensive. So we're going the details, and as we go through, I'm very kind of a casual type presenter. So if you have questions as we're going through this, feel free to interrupt me. I'm not bothered by that. If you can give me a thumbs up if you see my PowerPoint, I would appreciate it. Sweet. All right. Doot, doot, doot. So a little about me real quick. So yeah, my name's Jordan McLaughlin. I have over 10 years of political experience, because I'm one of those crazy people. So I've done that, and then I got into marketing for a while, and now I actually have my own business where I create my own card games and sell them, which is kind of how I got involved with the tariff stuff. I got married a couple years ago, been in a long-term relationship, with my husband, and we've been wanting to buy a home for a while, ever since after 2020, and we're like, hey, we kind of need more space. This condo is a little too small if we're both gonna work from here. So we were looking into a home, but it was something that just kept getting more and more further out of reach. Of the prices kept going up, our wages didn't go up. It seemed like no matter what we were doing, we were never going to kind of break through that ceiling that had kind of developed like above us. So one night in my frustration, I got in a rabbit hole of what private equity has been doing in the housing market. And that's what kind of led to me looking for solutions of like, how do you try to handle this? And I found this ordinance or sorry, legislation that was introduced in Washington, which the goal was to limit the amount of homes that private equity could own in the state. So that I thought that was a good idea. However, I knew our state house probably isn't going to do anything about it. So I'm a big fan of the saying, if you want something done, do it yourself. So I went to city council and asked them like, hey, work with us. Let's see if we can get this done. So yep, goal pretty simple. Make it so single family homes, they're limited on the amount that private equity can own. What that number will be is going to be debatable. But that's part of the ordinance that I wrote was five, but that's going to be negotiable as like this process goes through. So here's a couple facts about private equity. So since 2020, home values across the US have gone up by 45%. You know how much wages have gone up? Almost nothing. In 2022, investors made up of 17 to 20% of all home buyers in Columbus. So just think about how many houses that really is. Nearly 27% of all homes in the US in the first 3 months of this year were being bought up by private equity investors, not by families. They offer all cash, no inspection offers, where a traditional home buyer when we were dealing with like we can't buy a home without an inspection. We can't spend, a $500,000 not knowing if the place is going to catch on fire in 2 days. Where private equity, they're not living in this house, they don't care. That's not their problem. So by purchasing so many homes, private equity and corporations have just inflated housing prices to boost their portfolios and are just pricing out first-time home buyers. To kind of show you how crazy the housing prices has got, this is the condo that I rent. My landlord bought this in 2015 for $95,000. Exact same unit, two doors down, 2 weeks ago, sold for $259,000. So they're saying the property or this condo had a 272% increase in value. That is nuts. And there's no way anyone that's not already in the housing market can break into a situation like that. Because, like, okay, let's say that trend continues in another 10 years, it's up another 272%. No one in Ohio can afford that unless you're rich. So something is severely wrong with the way we're pricing our houses. So here's a couple quotes I just wanted to share before we kind of go into some scenarios. This one is from, where's this from? I got ahead of myself. So this is from a study of the Federal Reserve of Cleveland. So they said in the poorer pockets of Ohio's six biggest counties, real estate investors, not occupants, made up nearly half of all home purchases between 2018 and 2024. And as many of three out of all the single family homes there are now owned by LLCs or trusts. So one in three homes when you're in a poor area is owned by a private equity or corporation now. This leaves the would-be homebuyers in poor and working class neighborhoods competing in a marketplace with sophisticated professional investment firms that usually pay up in cash. So if you're already poor trying to buy a house, this is now completely out of your range. The other quote I wanted to show here, this one is from the Institute for Policy Studies. In cities and communities around the world, homelessness is growing, but vacant homes actually outnumber unhoused people several times over. Wealthy investors are buying up the properties, but holding them vacant in order to profit from speculation and real estate appreciation. And I'll go over a scenario of how this kind of works to explain why they're leaving so many homes vacant. So, why is letting private equity own single home family homes a bad idea? So, just so you know, these are hypothetical situations that have been kind of simplified to try to explain it. The mortgage industry is an extremely complex thing. So, I'm trying to put it in a way that people can understand. But also with some of this, I am not accusing any specific companies of crimes. In some of these scenarios, depending on their intent, it would count as fraud. In other places, it's not. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just showing the bad scenarios that can happen here, and that some of them we believe are happening. So I created Evil Co. That's my private equity co where I'm going to go in and I'm going to mess with the housing market for fun. So let's say we go into a market that has a lot of for rent homes, and this one has six. So I'm going to buy up four of those because I have plenty of money. So I've now owned four of these, or sorry, 8 houses that are for rent. So I'm going to rent out two of them, but I'm going to let two of them just sit there vacant. No, not even going to do anything to try to make money off of them for 1 or 2 years. So what I've done is I've turned the available retail inventory, I've turned it down. So it's decreased. So now the rents for, I can charge more rent, but also the other places are going to charge more rent because there's less homes available. Now, once all the other rents have gone up, I will then put those other 2 houses up for rent because I can claim that I'm just matching what everyone else in the neighborhood is doing. So nothing really changed in this scenario other than they just manipulated the system to make it so they could charge higher rents. Scenario two, Evil Coos doing the same thing. They're just buying houses this time. They're going into community, buying the houses, leaving some of them sit there, not for sale, completely vacant, waiting for the prices to go up and then sell them off, creating an artificial decrease in supply. The last one is if I was Evil Co. and I have a couple subsidiaries, I have LLC A and I have LLC B. I'm going to go into a neighborhood, and for simplicity, all these houses cost 500K. I'm going to buy up six of them. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my first LLC that bought them sell them to my second LLC for $100,000 more than what I paid for them. Now, all my houses are on book value $600,000 compared to the $500,000 I paid for them. So on paper, I'm worth $600,000 more, even though I just did a transaction between LLCs. But then, because I did that in that neighborhood, now all those houses are now put at 600,000 K because it's all based on what neighboring things are selling for. So all those get reevaluated and all those go higher, even though nothing in this neighborhood has changed other than private equity came in and did a transaction. So what does this going to eventually lead to? So for middle and lower class millennials, Gen Zers, and Gen Alphas, they're going to be permanently priced out of home ownership. The wages have not gone up. People are not able to save money. Houses are, way overpriced compared to what any reasonable person can save. That's going to be a end of that American dream for those generations. Rent prices are going to continue to go up because now homes are now income streams. They are there only to serve the people that own it, the private equity and the corporations as a source of income. So they're going to try to squeeze everything out of them as they can. So rent's going to continue to go up over time. Vacant properties, they're leaving these properties vacant to manipulate the market and increase stuff. Well, vacant properties lead to increases of crime. Like that's well documented. Of you have a neighborhood with a bunch of abandoned houses. Sometimes they will introduce an element that you don't want in your community. And this is the end of generational wealth for lower and middle class families. Most families where their wealth is located is in their home. And when they pass on, that's how that wealth gets put onto their children. They get their home or property, and sell it to however they want to do with it. But that's where their wealth is. If no one is, really able to own a home anymore, that type of generational wealth will then just be gone. So I have a firm belief Columbus homes should belong to Columbus families. We have to do this now before it's too late. So where is this happening? Like when are you talking about banning or limiting the amount of homes that private equity can own? There's no place that has officially done this yet, but there are many places where this is getting introduced. I've got a list here. You'll notice it's quite the mix. It's not just blue states, red states, or anything. There is a great mix in here. So there are a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that do recognize this as an issue that needs to be addressed. But you'll also notice all of these are, at state levels. We're the only ones asking a city to consider this. And like I said earlier, we're doing it because we don't believe the state house is probably going to take us seriously or go anywhere with this. So we want to see what we can get with the city. What we've done is created a sample ordinance that we have presented to city council. Um, I wrote it myself in my best attempt to pretend to know how to write an ordinance. Um, so we presented that. So now we are basically kind of at a PR campaign. When I went and talked to city council, I did like the community comments and stuff, and they came over after and they're like, hey, if you want this to happen, you need to get the city behind you to kind of get this pushed through. So now we're working on like a PR campaign to try to do that, and then doing alliance buildings with other organizations, which is why I reached out to John. John reached out to me, and it was kind of great. So like this is kind of the first of that. I've reached out to some like homing advocates. Um, there are people that are interested. They want city council to kind of say this is legal before they get on board. So that means we need to pressure city council to take the ordinance to the city attorney and to actually review it and say, yes, it's legal, it's possible. But one of the most fascinating things I've gotten from those conversations is that, I kind of had an assumption that some companies and stuff were going to be against us no matter what. And this person told me, who I'm just going to leave their name out, you're going to be surprised the amount of allies you might make because all the banks are mad because they make money off of mortgages and all these are cash offers. So imagine if you're a bank and 25% of your mortgages are now gone, they're not happy either. So there might be a lot of kind of cross popularity with this type of thing. So what can people do now? The first thing, if you want to try to help or encourage people to call Council President Shannon Hardin's office, tell him to introduce the ordinance. That's the first step we have to get through. That's the public pressure. They when I talk to them, they seem open to the idea, but as a lot of things happens in politics, they need political cover of knowing people are going to help them. Um, and then you can sign up for our email list. It's evictprivateequity.com. There's also a flyer on there you can print out. If you do it, don't do it today. Do it tomorrow because I have to update it. I got busy today. And there's some references. If anyone wants this, I can send them where you can read out all the articles where I was pulling stuff from. But that is Evict Private Equity. So I'll kind of open up the floor to questions and criticisms or whatever it is you guys want to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Looks like Heather has her hand up.
Jordan, would you be willing to share your PowerPoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send. Do you want me to send that to like you, John?
Yeah,
That
send
go
it
out?
to me also because I'll send it to
Okay.
everyone who signed up.
Thank
Put
you.
your put your name on it, Jordan, if you haven't
Okay, I
already.
will.
And Jordan, are you thinking we would start calling Shannon Hardin's office like tomorrow or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna know what you're talking about. If you tell them evict private equity or just say like banning, they should know exactly what you're talking about. I've been in communication with them. They're knowing that I'm trying to get people to call them. So and some other people have and stuff. So they're kind of expecting that. So yeah, feel free to do that whenever is convenient for you.
Awesome. John?
Yeah, Jordan, I hope you can refresh my memory. What is the enforcement mechanism in this sort of ordinance or law?
So it kind of ties into to something that's existing right now, or almost existing. So there's uh, a rental registry, um, uh, not ordinance, it's like a proposal in city council right now, where if you are renting out a property, you have to register with the city to provide like your information and how to contact you and kind of all that. After there was the situation where some of those big towers got evacuated on Christmas and they could not get a hold of anyone that would be able to do anything with the building because they didn't know. So they're working on that now. If that would pass, there in the way I wrote the thing, it basically just extends that onto if you are a private equity owning homes, you have to register within the same registry. And if you don't, if you get caught for it, then there is a penalty.
But what would happen if the limit was 5 homes and you own 10? What sort of enforcement mechanism would there be to force you to sell or?
So the way I currently have it written is that like let's say you own 10 right now and we move it to 5. You have 2 years to sell the 5. And after that, even if you still have them, you will just pay a penalty for however many you still have.
Okay, that's what I was wondering is if there was a penalty there that would change the economics for them. Because really what this reminds me of somewhat is the Airbnb issue.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of places who have passed Airbnb ordinances, and some of them have penalized people for having vacant properties that they're turning into Airbnbs. So, having a fine or a levy to a company for having a property sit vacant really is, I think, kind of getting to be standard for a lot of these issues now. So I think that's good.
Yeah, because the one of the things like when you talk about Airbnb, um, I believe they in some cities have done a similar registry as well. Of there's rental registries that that Columbus is looking at, but Cleveland and Cincinnati both currently have them. And they mainly do it as a way of enforcement through code enforcement. They know some of the companies that are bad, and so they can easily tell which ones to check out. But one thing that I kind of specifically did on this one, kind of knowing a little bit of how private equity works, is you, you don't just list who the owner is. If the owner is Bob's whatever LLC, they still would have to list who is considered the highest level parent company,
Mm,
as otherwise you just go through a maze of LLCs.
hmm.
That's not fair. Like they should be telling us who they are. If people shouldn't have to have like research degrees going through a million different LLCs in different states. This should be part of the thing. And even when I went last week to talk to the rental registry thing, I brought that up of like you're not going to be able to find back bad actors because the moment you ban one LLC from being able to do it, they're going in. The same people will go to another state, start a new LLC, and do the whole thing all over again. So like you have to have some higher level to understand exactly who these people are. So that, as you were talking about the Airbnb, that came to mind. And I want to make sure I pointed that out.
Um, can you stop sharing slides and we can just see each
Oh,
other better? Yeah, no
yep.
problem.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Didn't realize.
So I had a couple questions. I had one question, but I also just wanted first to uh there's a couple of things in the chat. So Karen asks, is that 5 per LLC? What happens if they have multiple LLCs, as in your example? I think you started to answer that a little bit.
Yeah, it would be based on their highest level parent company, and that's why that's a requirement for them to disclose that. And also, that five is just a number I picked that could be completely unreasonable. It's one of those things of we don't exactly know what's going on in the ground and how bad some things are and how reasonable things are. So that's when I say that's up for negotiation of they're like, well, we own like 15,000 houses. You can't expect us to sell all those in 2 years. Just the logistics of that wouldn't work. So I understand that it's a sample ordinance at this point. When I talk about that number, I want to make sure everyone knows that's not a dead set number. It's just a starting point.
Awesome. Another thing in the chat, Jackie asks, where can we review a copy of your proposed ordinance? Is that on
Uh,
the website?
It is not. I will send it, and I probably should put it on the website. Yep, I'm happy to share that. Just be kind. It's my first attempt ever trying to write an ordinance.
No problem. Another one in the chat. Can HOA communities enforce slash limit slash stop private equity investors in their communities?
It depends on the HOA. Some of them already have rules for it. The one that I live in now, they have a rule that kind of holds some of them at bay. Their rule is that only certain amount of units within the place can be rented out. So that has kept some of it at bay, but that was not the intention. So like that's still not going to stop them from coming in and buying them, letting them sit vacant until the rest of them get them more expensive and then selling them like that the second example that I showed. So it depends on the HOA and the rules that they have made. I have not heard of an HOA that has a rule specifically about this, but I'm not going to say that that does not exist.
And then my question was, the two city council candidates right now, Jesse Vogel and Tiara Ross, have they weighed in on this?
They have not, like I said, we're just kind of getting started. Shannon Hardin is the one that is in charge of he's the chair of the like housing committee at city council. So we've been reaching out to him first. And when I say we, this is mainly me and my husband. When I say we're just getting started, we're just getting started.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Don.
Hi, thanks, Mia. Really great point there. And Jordan, yeah, I'd be super curious what Vogel and Ross had to say about this. Sounds like a potential endorsement, high leverage endorsement opportunity because
Mhm.
that race is going to be tight.
Yeah, it's going to be super tight.
I suspect I know who would say what. Um, but I'll leave that for a, different venue. Um, I live on the south side of Columbus here, about 6 blocks east of Parsons, behind South High Street. My wife and I are uh, real estate actors of a different kind of evil. We're gentrifiers who sort of come into a lower income neighborhood because we've been priced out of so many of the other neighborhoods in Columbus, as you've described. We've had a very similar experience to what you've described, just getting blown out of the water by cash offers and all of this.
Yeah.
Since crossing the proverbial railroad tracks down here on the south side, we've seen a slightly different phenomenon that I suspect you're equally familiar with, to the sort of the taking out lucrative properties by making an offer that can't be refused because it's high dollar cash and no inspection, which is sort of low cutting homeowners down here who may
Hmm.
have inherited a home from their mother or their father, who may or may not be still alive. They're struggling with the higher property taxes that they're facing right now. And then somebody comes along and offers them an incredibly below market rate lotto ticket for $80,000. All they have to do is sign here,
Yeah.
right? And I think that feeds into some of the statistics you cited from the Fed, saying that lower income neighbor pockets within Ohio are seeing the highest percentage of these. That's absolutely what we're experiencing. I guess the only nuance there is that sometimes these offers aren't lucrative. They're just preying on financial illiteracy
Yeah.
or simply the short termism of being lower income in Columbus, where an $80,000 check now is better than a $200,000 check down the road that you don't even know how you'd get organized enough to put together. Thank you.
Yeah, and like that's one of the things with all these prices going so high. This is a systemic problem with wages not going up in 40 years or whatever it is. So like it's a ongoing thing of people are desperate. So like, you got a medical bill that's $80,000 that you got to pay for a surgery or something, and someone comes along, dangles a carrot. Yeah, they're like, most people are, because that's one of the things of like a lot of people, they're living day to day, week to week. Like, how did I get through this week? They don't have the luxury of thinking, well, if I wait 3 years and the market goes up, I'll make an extra, $50,000 by selling my house and then move into another one. That's not a reality for a lot of people, and these companies know that, which is why, I'm normally a pretty aggressive person, and they do not ever get my sympathy. um, I've done enough rabbit hole. Yeah, I'm done. No more nice guy.
Ah,
I would like to, I have talked to Jesse, not using the terms that you use, Jordan, but I live in, similar to you, Don, I live on the hilltop, and when we moved here, it was affordable. And like, I, like you, probably get 5 calls a day from somebody trying to buy my house. And I've talked to Jesse about that, particularly because I have a neighbor similar to your situation you're talking about, who's going to take a terrible offer because he's desperate and he will not listen to me and like whatever.
mm,
But I don't think Jesse's made a official statement, but he did talk at least at the witch lab thing that he went to, that he is concerned about it. He doesn't think it's right, and he would like to see city council do more to protect like long-term residents and make the housing market. Now again, how much can he really influence? I don't know. And that he also has to get elected first. So
Yeah.
I think he's on board with this.
Yeah, because one of the things that, and as we're thinking about this, I was thinking about people that are more disadvantaged. One of the things that is in this ordinance is there are certain carve outs for places that would be considered charities or nonprofits. Like, if a charity owns, 50 homes, and it's because they are doing like the kind of gateway type thing of from homelessness, you live in like a community home, then you have a bed in a room and then be able to move on eventually. There's not going to be restrictions on those type of things. This is only people that are buying them for a profit motive. Now, there's also some other ways you could do that. Some of the bills that we've listed, They only do the rules for outside LLCs, and that is outside companies, simply to try to make it so they're not accidentally pulling in some of the people that are doing good in the market because they are in the state and are doing good things, accidentally harming them because a lot of these definitions get really weird and vague fast. It's one of those problems of this problem happened so quick, no one figured out how to track it before it basically saturated the market. So it's a lot of thin line walking of you want to protect people and get these people out, but how do you do it at the same time without accidentally destroying your housing market in your own city and making the situation worse? So my ordinance, there's cutouts for nonprofits and stuff, but also as I learn more, as I talk to people, they're like, well, you want to think about this because like I didn't think about the nonprofit thing until I talked to somebody. So as we go through this process, we're going to learn more things and hopefully be able to do that. But it is one of the things of like it's a thin line that we're thinking about here.
Do you consider the land bank a nonprofit? Because I will say that is a very unpopular program in like areas where I live, where people feel like the land bank's getting bamboozled by all of these developers.
I don't want to say anything about the land bank thing because I do not consider myself a good enough expert about it yet. I have heard what you have said from other people. I just don't personally understand it enough yet where I think it's okay for me to have an opinion.
I think that might be something for you to consider. Not that you're asking my opinion, but it is something that regularly comes up, and people are not fans. I think the land bank in theory was great. I think it started out really well, and I think it probably hasn't been able to adjust to this rapidly changing market. And so at least people around me are not fans of the land bank. And so if there's not a lot to that, if there's not some conversation around that, it'll be hard to get some of those folks on board with that.
Okay. Yeah, I will check that out. I know a little about I'm originally from like Licking in Knox County, so I know a little bit about the land bank there, and they have seemed to have success with it. So like it's one of those things like on premise, yeah, it sounds great, but it's in execution that it seems like maybe sometimes these things are good or bad or successful or fail.
I'm wondering, when Heather was describing the situation with her neighbor, I know this isn't directly related, but I'm wondering if the ordinance, could be expanded to include requirements for kind of disclosure of some kind so that, a group is making offers to people and to have some requirement that when you make an offer, there has to be some disclosure of what the comp values would be in a regular market or something.
Well, the hope is that by doing this, a lot of those offers are going to stop naturally because it's no longer a market in which they can extort money out of. But that's also like because one of the things of any doing anything like this in politics is, yeah, this is my idea that I think is great, but that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do. Sometimes they are going to go a different route, even though we agree this is a problem. There's other routes that you can take. New York, for example, they put a 90-day moratorium, I guess is the word, on houses for sale that a corporation could buy. So it had to be on the market for 90 days before a random LLC could come in and buy it. Um, I think that's a great idea. My issue with that is it does not solve the inventory problem because those companies are still going to be holding on to all those houses they already have. And we have an inventory problem. How much of that is real or fake, we can argue about all day. I think it's at least 50% fake because they're just sitting on these houses. But that doesn't fix that with that 90-day moratorium, and that's why I went this direction. But that is something New York has passed. They have actually done that. So there are other options other than this, but I liked this one. I thought it was the best fit for our scenario where we, because one of the things we have is like we are building, and so like I'm out by New Albany-ish, like in between New Albany and Westerville, so we got all that Intel crap, and they are just building apartments. No one is building single family homes. And it's because they're just trying to get as much in as you want, but apartments do not provide for building of wealth that the way single family homes are. So we have an inventory problem. That inventory needs to be fixed, but we're not going to build our way out of it because we're only building apartments.
Don?
Yeah, I think to that point, you mentioned potential allies here in Central Ohio, Jordan. Some realtors that I know, and I'm going to send you an email at the end of this for one in particular. Um, they're obviously really struggling right now with inventory.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's not obviously great for realtors when prices appreciate so much that buyers can't afford to buy at the prevailing rate,
Yep.
right? Or at least the right kinds of buyers, which is to say, I don't know, folks that aren't coming in as portfolio investors,
Yeah.
right?
But families that need a place to live.
Yeah. So you're probably already aware of this, but I just have to say it out loud. There is a quiet insurgency building of really upset real estate agents because these deals, as you know, circumvent brokers
Oh yeah.
entirely and just do
Yep.
these sort of, no no closing fees kind of
Yep.
deals.
Yeah, I've gotten several emails from realtors that have come across me, or come up after a meeting after I come up and spoke. So, yeah, I'm aware that that's an issue.
So we have a newsletter that we send out every week, and we have like actions that ask people to take. Um,
Hmm.
and you know, I think we'd be happy to share, a kind of a call to action to call Shannon Harding, or however you want to phrase it. If and it's helpful for us if we have like a script, or just kind of what you want people to say and
Okay,
refer to it correctly. And if you can send that to me or John, or I mean whatever, we can make sure to get that in either this week or next week. And just generally have it be something that we could even put it on our website, put a link, or something. So yeah.
great. And I just want to throw this out there, like I'm really in the alliance building phase right now. So if you know of other organizations that might be interested in this, email me. I put my email in there, or call, whatever. I'd be happy to talk to them, do this exact same presentation. If anyone knows this organization named Bread, I've been trying to get a hold of them. If anyone knows them and has a contact, I'd love to
I
talk.
think I probably could get you a contact.
Okay. So just think about that. Like if you think about your contacts and the places that like, oh, this might kind of line up, please reach out to me. I can talk about this stuff all day, and I'm willing to talk to anyone that will listen. So that would be great just for help building that alliance that we're going to need.
Yeah, and Karen put in the chat, the Young Dems would probably be very interested. In fact, there's a bunch of different kind of subgroups in the Dems that might be really interested.
Okay. I'll
Uh,
reach out to them.
yeah. So I think all of us, any of us that can think of organizations, groups, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to Kohio already.
Yes, I
Yeah,
did reach out to them. I've talked to
yeah.
them.
So if we can think of any organizations, let's send them Jordan's way. And
Yeah, it's one of those things of they don't know me, so it's a random guy sending an email, where if it's an introduction from someone they know, that's a lot more valid and more likely to get them to talk and listen.
awesome. Anything else? John Gaddis, anything else?
No, I don't think I have anything else. Any closing thoughts, Jordan, before we wrap it up?
I just want to thank you guys for all spending the time to listen to me. This is my first time doing this presentation, so any feedback you have on how to do it would be great as I kind of fine tune it. But yeah, I just really appreciate, like, this is one of those things of the amount of frustration that I know I feel as a person trying to buy a home, and just what I talk to other people. And everyone knows this is a problem. Like, there's not a single person I've ever talked about the housing market and isn't it like super weird right now? It shouldn't be doing that. Like, those prices are nuts, every single one. But there's never been any call to action because no one really seems at a leadership level to care. So it's one of those things of, I've decided I'm going to try to force them to. So that's why I'm doing this. So I appreciate you guys listening to me. Hopefully I convinced you that this is a worthy endeavor. And I really appreciate you guys spending the time and inviting me to talk.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and we will get your slides, and we will send that out. And
Yep.
also this recording, I'll make sure to include your email so that people can be in touch if they have organizations that they want to put you in touch with.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'll probably get that out to you tomorrow if that's okay.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very
This is
much. I
great.
appreciate it. It was
Appreciate
great
it.
to meet all of you.
Thank
And for
you.
first timer, you're doing excellent work.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Agreed. Amazing.
Thank you.